As Brandon just mentioned, I recently took a job here, and ever since I left Grand Forks and at school, I've always been looking for an opportunity to come back. So when Acme Tools came calling, it was a really good opportunity for me. It fit my background, and I'm excited to be here and part of the community, and really excited to be a part of this hearing and being involved in the community. And so thanks again for your time. I'll first start off with a little bit of history. Acme Tools was formed in 1948 as Acme Electric Motor, and what they did was primarily rewind electric motors. And since that time, we've kind of expanded to what you see today when you drive by our stores, and also when you go to our website online. And specifically in 2010, we kicked off our e-commerce business again. So this is a new iteration of our business after the previous segment was sold to Amazon some years ago. We've experienced continuous growth in our e-commerce business, and that growth has really been perpetuated and increased the rate of growth when the pandemic hit. Really what we thought we saw was a temporary change in kind of the way that consumers were buying their goods. What we're starting to experience is more of a permanent change, specifically with the way people go to our website, buy something on our website, pick it up in our store. So our website allows us to not only serve our customers throughout the country, it also serves our community in that they can come in times of COVID and avoid kind of more contact with people and buy online. So it's one of the things that we appreciate, and we don't expect that trend to change. We expect our e-commerce business to double again within 5 years. So we will experience continued growth through that time and continue to pressure, and it's really helpful to kind of have these funding to make these things happen. Acme Tools in 2020, as you may recall, we doubled our distribution center size, and we came in front of this board and asked for a PACE loan at that time as well. Now we're coming back with improvements to our e-commerce infrastructure, which really constitutes our hardware, our software, our network, and our services, and our building, and everything that goes into our e-commerce business and our platform. Part of that is our digital storefront. We had upgrading our digital storefront to better accommodate increased traffic in the way that people finance things online and the way that people purchase things online. We have a new e-commerce platform that we've kind of implemented, and now everything that kind of that makes that e-commerce platform go, we need to invest in that infrastructure as well. So along with that, we're making improvements to our conveyor system. Our conveyor system right now is quite an impressive sight if you get a chance to come out to our facility, and we're offering people the opportunity who want to come out and see what we have going. It's actually quite impressive. I've never seen anything like it myself. So what we've done is increased our capacity so we can, one, process more packages, two, store more products and offer more products on our website. We've also increased the turnaround in which we can meet the demands. As you guys are well aware, shipping demands are pretty significant with Amazon offering free shipping and those types of things, and we need to be able to compete and stay up with those time frames and turnarounds. So that's what we're doing with our conveyor system to kind of improve that process. Along with that it's increasing our capacity to push out boxes. Along with that, we need people to do that. And so there's going to be job opportunities as far as the conveyor system goes, and as well as in our e-commerce business on higher levels as we develop more business and more leadership. As far as employees go, we currently have 102 employees in our e-commerce business, and this is specific to our e-commerce business because that's where our PACE loan surrounds. So we have 102, 41 that work in the corporate office, and then 61 that work out in the DC. And as we increase the number of people in the DC, we're gonna increase the boxes that we're pushing out of our DC. We're gonna need to equally increase the number of people that are working out there to push out the boxes. We expect that we'll have close to 150 employees within 2 years just in our e-commerce business alone. And our total business, which our e-commerce business helps feed and grow as well, is over 500 employees. The last thing I want to say is thank you for your support. We think the city and the EDC have been a really valuable partner for Acme Tools in helping us grow and helping us serve the community and also hire people in the community. We appreciate that. This will help us to grow and be competitive nationally, create new jobs, and contribute to our future success. So we thank you for your time and consideration, and you guys have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Mr. Foy.
Oh, excuse me. Any questions I can answer before I jump down? I apologize for that.
Actually, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
One, I mean, Acme, it's a great success story for the community. Being in business, it's kind of it's fun to look at them. They've just done so well, and they're so ingrained in the community. So it's really cool. Appreciate you coming up here. Appreciate your time. In regards to the jobs, 48 new jobs, that's amazing. At $32 an hour, that's really good too. And would those be, what qualification would you have to get that job?
So the $32 an hour encompasses all of our e-commerce business. So
Okay.
it will range down to our lower, if you want to call them lower employees, lower level
Yep.
employees, lower pay employees in the warehouse.
Yep.
Right now, I mean, as you're aware, it's over $20 an hour for
Right.
a warehouse employee. So it does, the over $30 an hour does mix in higher.
That's a
level
blended.
employees.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it's a blended rate, but we definitely offer competitive rates. We look in the market and we're constantly evaluating. I'm sure you guys are well aware of the employee crunch that's out there, and we have good jobs that we would love to offer to people. We just want them to take them. So there's been a challenge there, but one of the things that we've done to combat that challenge and fill our positions is we pay our people accordingly, and we offer whatever the market's offering, whether it's bonuses or hourly rate or whatever it may be, but we like to be competitive with our 401k offering, our healthcare offering, our life insurance offering, our disability insurance offering. So we're competitive that way, which we can fill our jobs. So it is a $32 an hour blended rate for.
Great. Well, thank you for your time.
Yep. Any other questions? Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. I'll just wrap up with that. The request is here today. The total project is about $3 million, and so they're looking to buy that interest rate down from the 3.75% to 1%. That's through Wells Fargo. They did a similar thing on the last note, as you would notice, or would note from the 2019 expansion, 2020 project. And so what they did to guarantee that or secure it is through the corporate guarantee, but also with a direct collateral placement, a designation of a certificate of deposit equal to the value. So that's where you see that loan to value is 100%. The actual loan request is about $77,000, which would leverage another $142,000 from the bank in North Dakota to make the project successful. As Scott mentioned, if any further questions, I'm happy to answer any questions there at this time as well. Otherwise, with your approval, this would move forward to the JDA consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Baumbach. Oh, Mr. Wolf, question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Crary. Just a quick comment. Welcome to Mr. Foyt to the community. We're glad you're here. And I would say just to the committee, at least in my opinion, Acme and their growth and how they're utilizing programs that we have to offer is exactly what, in my opinion, we're striving for. So congratulations to Acme. Thank you for continuing to invest in this region. And welcome, Mr. Foyt. So I have no other questions. It was more of a comment. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Whitney?
Same on this, and I think to echo Mr. Wolf, welcome, and excited to see this growth. And I actually would move the question with that accolade of we're excited to see this continued growth and this continued job opportunities for well-paying jobs in the region for citizens of the Grand Forks community. So.
Ms. Whitney, sorry, did I hear a motion there? Okay.
That's
sweet.
correct, Chair Curry. I move that we approve this.
Great.
I will second it. I'll try to lower my hand too, Chair.
I know, I was thinking the same thing. I lower my hand. I forgot to do that here.
I didn't know what was going on there, so great. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Awesome. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Foyt. All right, next on the agenda, C-Run Loan Program modifications.
Thank you, Mr. Crary. We've got kind of a two-part item. As you know, our C-Run loan program is coming up on 18 months old, so it's not so new, but we are nearing the end of our initial disbursement phase. So the request on the initial disbursement phase is a few final modifications to help us basically get that money out the door by our expenditure deadline. Your staff report kind of walks you through the series of modifications that have been made. The key element is when this act, or the CARES Act, provided the initial funding, there was very clear guidance from EDA that we had to show a direct COVID connection. And our guidelines were written so that you know, if you were to receive assistance from this program, you had to have been in existence at the time that COVID hit and show direct COVID impact. EDA has, you know, kind of recognizing that the pandemic is still with us but has shifted, they're now emphasizing the resiliency aspect of using this funding. And that's kind of what we're doing with these final changes, is to remove those requirements of a direct COVID impact and a business having been actively functioning at the time that COVID hit, with the idea that this doesn't really increase the risk, it just increases our ability to get those funds out the door in this first round to give us the ability to revolve them. The staff report says we've got about just shy of $400,000 left. The last loan that we approved was in September, so the demand is not overwhelming, but we are getting some inquiries, and we do have one borrower that has actually submitted. Well, I don't know, Colin, is it complete? I guess it went through the loan committee last week, so we do have one that's pretty much ready, but that loan is only going to be eligible if these recommended modifications are approved. So Colin can certainly speak to the type of applicants that he's hearing from, and we do hope that with these modifications we'll get, if not all of that 393 obligated, pretty darn close before that expenditure deadline. With that, certainly stand for any questions, as would Colin. And with the next item, well, attached to that next item, there is a bit of a summary of the loans that we have approved to date. The point of the attachment is to kind of show what our repayment schedule is, but if you want to look at what we've done, that's the attachment to that second staff report.
Mr. Fleming?
Just had a question where the 34750 came from, or 347,500 new cap.
Oh,
Just
that's EDA's mandate that you can't expend more than 25% of your initial capitalization on one loan.
okay. Thank you.
Actually, can you, Ms. Richards or Colin, can you just go through the loan program again? It's been a while since we had one, just for the terms, and essentially this is just more or less expanding it for more opportunities for people, but I guess for anybody, if anybody actually goes to YouTube and watches these, maybe this is a good opportunity to, you know, advertise it.
Absolutely. Chair Crary, members of the Growth Fund Committee, the C-Run loan program is a equipment or working capital loan program, 5 to 7 years at 1% interest. Again, it was originally designed so that those businesses that were impacted by COVID and could demonstrate that were able to receive working capital support in the short term, maybe to shore up their the amount of cash that they're working with, or if they're looking to kind of expand or grow a new side of their business, they could also purchase equipment for that purchase or working capital if they needed it. So generally they still have to qualify, be able to repay the loan. Sometimes they prove that, you know, if they're a relatively newer company or they're kind of a fresh startup, but they still met that March 1st, 2020 requirement as a new business, we may have relied a little bit more on pro formas. Otherwise, we kind of relied on their past business, their past performance in order to determine ability to repay.
And all of these loans, these are all federal dollars that more or less have a pretty big incentive to get them out the door, because then it defederalizes and becomes part of our revolving loan, correct?
Well, they're not really defederalized, but they're ours to reuse. We're still...
Poor terminology, but in essence, right. We can continue to revolve them for more businesses. But if we don't use it, then our bucket is capped.
Correct.
Okay.
We would have to return anything unexpended by that deadline to
Right.
EDA.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Wolf?
Thank you, Chair Crary. So, question that I had was, Ms. Richards, perhaps, EDA has encouraged RLFs to focus on long-term economic resiliency. That's what it sounds like. So, what does that mean to us? I have an opinion, but if we're going to expand this or try to get, utilize the last 400,000, if we're not going to look at direct COVID impact, who do we want to invest these dollars in? And does the EDA have any guidance on that? Or do they have to approve our change? I guess that's my first question.
Well, correct. We would request a modification to our plan. And under that analysis and findings of fact, the second and third bullets are the specific amendments that we would be making to our plan. And I have no worry that EDA won't approve it because they're basically encouraging us to do this very thing that we're asking you to approve, which is move beyond that direct COVID impact to more of a regional economic resiliency model,
Sure.
both region-wide but also business-specific. How can your
Okay.
business be more resistant to future pandemics or other types of disasters through using this money? So it's
Okay, and then-
very hard to define what we're exactly looking for. It's more what requirements are we removing?
Sure. So, okay, so wouldn't have to show direct COVID impact, but it's something to obviously improve the economic or, the economy here within this region. Mr. Hanson, you had said, I think we've got someone in the pipeline. So if we're going to try to invest these dollars, what is, what's the industry or what, why are we looking to increase do we have an opportunity in mind that's larger than 200,000, or is it just we're trying to, I'm just curious on what we're seeing and why increasing the cap?
So our cap of 200,000 is purely a local cap. In our last changes we made in April of 2021, we actually did raise the cap to the 347,500 that's in the staff report in the last bullet. But as far as targeting different sectors or what that means, we've really kind of left it up to the businesses, I guess, to demonstrate how they would become more resilient because of these funds. And we're kind of we're kind of in a weird phase where we're also shifting to this being a normal gap financing tool. In fact, the application that we have just received on the loan committee side and will be going before the EDC is more of a traditional gap financing loan that you would see in terms of structure. But I guess what was the other part of that question? I'm sorry, Mr.
Is that, Mr. Hanson, would it be a similar dollar amount? Is it similar, is it a larger dollar amount or?
Yeah, so it'd be $200,000 is the request there.
Okay.
So if there was a request for over 200,000, that could be brought forward. But for the most part, of the one request we have and the three other individuals or businesses and nonprofits I'm speaking with, they would be probably at most maybe 150,000 or another 200,000, and then the other two would be anywhere from 30 to 60,000 in terms of the size of the request. So they'd still be under 200,000 of the folks we're talking to right now.
Okay. Thank you for just some context there. I mean, again, we do want to invest these dollars. I think through our process, my opinion, we want to try to find obviously the businesses that have been affected or that can grow within this region and put those dollars to work. But and again, the more businesses we can help, the better. So those would be my only questions and comments. Thank you.
And if I could just share with the committee a little bit more context too, the last time I was here with a loan request from Integrity Fundraisers, we had a few applicants who were in the pipeline. They did meet that COVID impact, that negative COVID impact, but they themselves had found ways to move on or cover some losses or change some things in their businesses that they weren't willing to take on private debt at that time. So we're seeing that maybe the negative effect of COVID right now isn't as severe as it initially was. So that's also a bit of the motivation to change and to kind of loosen the requirements. And it also means that if a business still does experience a negative COVID impact, let's say 80% of their workforce has to go out and quarantine, and that impacts their business and what they're able to do, they can still come to the Growth Fund with a request and demonstrate negative COVID impact and receive a loan.
Perfect. And Ms. Whitney? Sorry, Ms. Whitney, still on mute.
I hate that. All right. Mr. Hanson and Ms. Richards, I'm not sure which one would answer this, but I think to do an and to Mr. Wolf's question around the $200,000 kind of limit, do we have to raise the limit up to that maximum? Or if someone wanted to come forward as almost like an exception, can they do that presently? And I think the reason for that is when I look at the list of requests that have been approved so far, there's only 2 that have ever hit that maximum $200,000 limit. So I'm just wondering if there's any need to raise it, if we could consider something as an exception to that, knowing that the EDA limit is the 347.5.
The way we had kind of structured it after that last change where we did raise the actual cap to that 347 was that we would not even accept an application in excess of 200,000 without the applicant showing extraordinary circumstances. So we could always, well, after that last amendment, we were able to make a loan of up to 347,000, but we were not really actively seeking. We were targeting to ensure that the money lasted as long as the need was out there, kind of a $200,000 working targeted cap. What we're saying now is we're running out of time. We don't have a huge demand. We don't really need to have a business show extraordinary circumstances to accept that application. You would still, of course, have the opportunity to review and approve it as the loan committee would. It's just, we're just kind of easing access to all borrowers regardless of loan size. And I did want to note that we still want to have that turn down letter requirement because, you know, as we all know, these are very attractive loan terms. We don't want to be seen as competing with commercial lenders. So while we're raising the cap, we're maintaining that turn down letter requirement for anything in excess of $100,000.
Okay, thank you. And then just to refresh my memory, by adding equipment as an allowable expense on these opportunities, if for some reason they don't pay back the loan, can you refresh my memory as to how we handle those equipment and that equipment purchase and how it's valued and or liquidated or whatever? Can you just refresh my memory on that, please?
I believe in the last equipment loan that we had, at least purely equipment loan, was to HB Sound and Light for a all-inclusive mobile stage that's also a semi-trailer. And we had a purchase money security interest at the request of the Growth Fund for that piece of equipment specifically, but we also have a blanket UCC lien against business assets. So that's how we've secured ourselves in the past. We've had, I think since then, one loan that I think it was a relatively small loan of about $25,000 or $22,000 to Valley Tech Pros, and a very, very small portion of that was for equipment, things like furniture, that it really didn't make sense to take a position specifically against something like that. So that's what we have done historically and what we would plan to do. Part of the $200,000 request that will come forward at our next meeting is for some equipment, and we expect to be able to be in a first position on that equipment for that loan.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And then just from a timeline perspective, if EDA needs to approve these changes, how does that then impact the timeline of expending these, and how does that all kind of play out from a timing perspective?
If I recall from our last amendment, it was a relatively quick turnaround. We essentially, after the JDA approves the changes, we send those along with minutes from the JDA meeting to EDA in Denver, and they approve administratively in their office of the changes. So again, last time we had some back and forth with the EDA for a little while on the changes specifically, but again, these changes are coming at the suggestion of the EDA, so we anticipate probably a pretty quick turnaround for approval.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Those are my questions.
And just to kind of reiterate to community members, in the staff report, the bullets 1 through 6, those were already approved. So that was previously approved. The only modifications you guys were really requesting to amend is more or less don't need a COVID impact. don't need a negative COVID impact, and they could have been incorporated before or after, I guess, March 1st, 2020, essentially. Those are the only two technical modifications we're requesting right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And as Colin was alluding to, we're not eliminating COVID impact as a use of funds, we're just eliminating the requirement that that be there.
Okay. Any additional questions or thoughts?
Move approval.
We got a motion?
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion?
May I ask
Oh,
who seconded?
Mr. Wolf, second.
Thank you.
So motion by Mr. Kavami, second by Mr. Wolf. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay.
Opposed, same sign. And motion carries. So,
All
Mr.
right.
Richards, I don't know, did that kind of tie in, or the plan is just?
We're kind of the two sides of the same coin here. It's all about program modifications for our CARES-funded revolving loan phase. We've dealt with the initial disbursement phase. Now we're looking ahead to the revolve phase. And as I mentioned earlier, the attachment to your staff report shows the loans that we've approved to date, and a pro forma of this assumes 100% on-time repayment. The idea is just to kind of show you when that revolve fund would build up to a capacity to actually make substantial loans. So if everybody paid on time and we have 100% repayment at the end of this year, we would have built up to only, well, only is maybe a relative term, but not quite $125,000. We assume that we will get this last $300,000 out the door, so this clearly isn't for the life of the RLF, but just shows what we've done to date. But the main topic at hand is when we initially approved our C-Run plan, the long-term discussion of the revolve funds was a really minor aspect of it. We were focusing on getting the funds out the door and addressing COVID, but we stated at that time that it was likely that the revolve funds would just join our existing EDA RLF in terms of a collecting pot and as well as a use as gap financing. Since then, we've defederalized, kind of at EDA's invitation, we defederalized that, what they call a legacy RLF. Ours was over 20 years old, and we were able to use those funds as the match for our EDA funded fit up of the Herald building. We still have, at that time, we still made reference to the fact that having a gap financing tool is an important tool for the growth fund to have, and with the idea that that would be a likely use of the revolve funds. Well, now we need to start formalizing that. So really the purpose of this staff report is to just get, I guess, concurrence that those initial discussions are still the preference of the JDA, that as these funds revolve, we will use them as a gap financing tool. Not joined with our old gap financing tool because that has been defederalized, but pretty much mirror that. So if that is kind of the will of this group, we will then, with JDA concurrence on Monday, start working with EDA to determine what does that plan look like as we enter the revolve phase, and then come back to you with a final draft that has, I guess, is the result of staff and EDA kind of going through the minutia of how do we set up an RLF from the get-go. Our experience with the old RLF was we were very comfortable in the revolve phase, but we had never made that transition from disbursement to revolve, so we want to make sure we get all the pieces right. But we did want committee concurrence that we were on the right track with its long-term use would be gap financing.
And I think it's not necessarily, I don't think we need a motion, it's more just a head nod, because then we'll approve the plan once you work with EDA, I assume?
Yes. I mean, a motion is fine, but we're not asking you to approve anything,
Right.
just authorize us to proceed down that path.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Actually, I have a quick question. Of this repayment schedule, has anybody missed a payment or been late on a payment thus far?
I think we have one or two that have missed their January payment. Is that correct?
We have one who's missed the January payment, but they have reached out to me to fix the ACH auto withdrawal or auto pay issue. So we expect all to pay and be on time by the end of the month.
Okay, cool. And Mr. Wolf, got a question? Or comment?
Yes, thanks, Chair Crary. Similar question as yours and maybe a request moving forward. I am in favor of Ms. Richards, what you've laid out and using these dollars as gap financing as we talked before. My request would be at some cadence, whether it's monthly growth fund meetings or quarterly, I guess either one would be fine with me, but just getting an update on the status of these loan, and again, something to the effect, are they current or are they past due? Just so we know what the cash flow is coming and the balance as it's building, that would be helpful to me. So
Sure.
those are my thoughts.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions, concerns? I'll start chairing these more often, you guys. Get everybody out the door a little bit earlier.
You have the magic touch, Mr.
Yeah,
Ferry.
that or just, three bullet items, agenda items that might help as well. But great, well, if there's nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I have one quick update.
Sorry, Ms. Richard.
We are scheduled to open bids on the Harold Fit Up project on the 26th. That is the reason for the special meeting of this group on the 7th of February before the JDA. With any luck at all, we'll get good bids, but if we have to do a little review and scour the budget, then we hopefully will have that done before the 7th, and you can see a recommendation before it goes to JDA.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
Move to adjourn?
We got a motion, can I get a second?
Second.
Motion and second, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair
you.
Crary. Bye-bye.
The what?